Mr. Ramamurthy Krishna to please assume his seat on the dais.
You want me to sit there?
Floral welcome to the chief guest. Welcome address and introduction of the speaker by Ms. Gauri, Head PG Department of Computer Science.
Happy day. Welcome to the second technical session on the topic Teaching and Learning with the Brain in Mind. We welcome our speaker, Mr. Ramamurthy Krishna, Founder and Chief Learning Officer, Potential Genesis HR Services LLP. Welcome, sir. Let me have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Ramamurthy Krishna to this august audience. Mr. Ramamurthy Krishna, a human resource professional with 30 plus years of experience in different industries. He is a professional certified coach from International Coach Federation. He holds executive masters in neuro leadership apart from many international certifications. He has more than 2,000 hours of coaching and 10,000 hours of training experience. Presently, he is the founder and Chief Learning Officer of Potential Genesis HR Services LLP. Once again, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. After that introduction, I don't think it would be fair if I stand between you and the speaker, so address by the speaker.
I would be happy if you do that.
I wouldn't.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. Teaching and learning with brain and mind. You know, there are three things there. One is teaching, which I am not good at. Learning, which I was never good at. And I hope some of my school teachers are not here. Brain, I don't have. Right? So when you don't have all the three, the only thing you do is try to talk to others how you can do that. So please stay along with me and then hold me on and then tolerate me, if I may say, for the next 30 hours or 30 minutes or so that I'm going to talk. Thank you so much for the introduction, and I know lunch time is ahead of me. It's a tough time. Post-lunch is a difficult time. Pre-lunch is equally a difficult time. So I just want to request you to stand up for a minute, all of you. Just watch me. I repeat my instruction, just watch me. Do simply what I say. Put your arms straight up in the air. Put your arms straight up in the air. Put your arms straight up in the air. Thank you very much. I know your attention. Now, thank you so much. Please take your seat. Except one, I didn't have the courage to look at the right hand side, except on the left, except one. Many of them were actually doing what they saw me doing. Please, as we go along today, just throw questions as we go along. I am ready to take questions as we go along. No problems with that. Why do you think it happened? And what is the implication for you back at classroom? Yeah, madam. Just throw it. If you could just send the mic along, madam, it would be great, yeah? Otherwise, listening to this old man is going to be boring. Let me tell you that. I can assure you that. Yeah? Yeah, that I think she wanted to say.
Our attention is more on visual than on audio.
Okay, beautiful, yeah? So this is how you teach people, right? You don't have to really talk anything. You ask question and then you go on. Yeah, anybody else wants to take a turn? There, Vidya, someone there at the back, yes. I'm really taxing Vidya today for some very specific personal reasons. She knows that. Yeah? No? Okay, right, let me tell you, madam, if you could just push it to the next slide. I will talk about why we do what we do, but today you have two choices that I put in front of you. One is a fixed mindset. The other one is a growth mindset. You have two choices. You can either sit there and listen to me with a clear, judgmental mindset that what I'm saying will not work. And I offer you a second choice. If you listen to what I'm saying, go through what I'm saying, create an insight for yourself, and see how you can apply that insight back at your schools, colleges, wherever you are, family, doesn't matter, then I'm sure you will benefit a lot. Choice stays with you. Why you did what you did? Because when people get two contradictory messages, one is I'm saying put your arms up in the air, and then my word says differently, my action says differently. Most of the time, brain reacts to what it sees, right? And this latest invention proves that. It is called mirror neuron. Now, what is mirror neuron? Mirror neuron is something that help of which we as human beings are able to relate with each other. If one child, especially if you're doing primary, I'm sure you know, one child starts crying, how many other children start crying? In a class, if you give chocolate to the first kid, what do you think happens to the second kid? Expecting already, and the last bench is waiting. And that's the only time they curse why I'm sitting in the last bench. Rest is dangerous. First bench, I've never been one. I never seen one. Today they made me sit in the first bench. My legs are still shaking, as you can see, right? So the mirror neuron effect is what enables us to empathize. Lack of mirror neuron will make it very, very difficult for us to empathize. This is not what I am saying. This is what I am saying, what has been researched, what has been proven. Lack of mirror neuron is difficult, and we are going to talk a bit more about why we need to understand the existence of mirror neuron in learning and teaching with brain and mind. The effect of mirror neuron was actually proven. As you can see, there are these monkeys, not the one in the classroom, please. The real monkeys that you see in forests and jungles, right? Those are the monkeys. They were doing an experiment with the monkey. You know one thing? Except human being and monkey, no other animal can hold an item with two fingers. They can only grab it with their hand, right? So they were doing this test. You see in slide 1, the monkey is trying to pick up something, and you can see the neural pathway hitting a peak, the signal, right? So what they did is they isolated the neuron in the monkey's brain. And scientists, I think probably they're well paid, I don't know. One of them suddenly happened to go one day into the lab on a trained monkey, just picked up one nut from the monkey's bowl. And you know the monkey is already with all the electrodes, etc. attached to the brain. And immediately he heard a sound coming like, he heard that sound. Then he realized what's going on. So he tried to pick up again. Then the monkey's electrode sends the sound. That is how they found the mirror neuron effect. It was by sheer accident. If the scientists had ignored the sound of this from the monkey's brain, then they wouldn't have discovered mirror neuron, and probably it wouldn't have been available for us today to talk how it is going to help us in learning. Please park and ask me questions as I go along. Otherwise, I take it that there's no question, I'm going to move. And I welcome questions anytime. So that is about mirror neuron. And just before lunch, I want you to see the picture in front of you for quite a few minutes. That's the mirror neuron again now. To get you back here is going to be tough mentally. Physically, you're all there. But the moment you see that picture, your mirror neuron is triggering, and it goes and tells your tummy, can this guy stop talking and allow us to go for lunch? That's the mirror neuron effect. One thing for certain, when I end my 30 minutes or 45 minutes of class or lecture, whatever you call it, I'll definitely introduce you to a research model that you can comfortably try in classrooms, families, society, at all places. And that's for certain I'm going to grant that will be one major takeaway apart from a lot of minor takeaways that you will have today. So lunch is waiting and brain is more social, waiting for it to happen during lunchtime. Oh, sorry. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, I follow the instruction. Yeah, brain is very social. Why do you think I'm saying brain is very social? And it is only because brain is very social. You have WhatsApp selling like hell. You have Google selling like hell. You are screaming in class like hell, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Brain does not want to be isolated from society. It wants to be with people. It loves to be with people. It is all started back when our ancestors were in the forest. They could never kill a mammoth of an animal single-handed. They needed to form a tribe to kill the animal. So they could never do it alone. Doing it alone means problem for them. So brain that learned to be social continues to be social, and the social stuff has slightly changed, and we all know how it has changed from physically being social to being social virtually. That's what has happened. And now the implication of this virtual, being social virtually, is what I am interested in working on in the next 10 years of my life, and I am working on a concept called digitalized human brain. And that's what is coming up from now to 2020, 2030, whatever it is, because people are highly digitalized. You know, children, even today you can get children feeding bottle in the design of a mobile phone. If you try one, you will get, right? And in few seconds, the child wants a mobile phone, and you also see an ad. Child doesn't want to go into the womb of the mother unless there's an internet connection. Yeah? Because things are changing fast. And that social aspect of brain, what really worries me is that they are so much connected now. In the past, the closest connection that is we wait for holidays to be over, to be back in school. Today it doesn't matter. Every day is a holiday because 24/7 I am on WhatsApp. I am on a WhatsApp Tamil group. There's one lady sitting here who told Tamil incomplete WhatsApp group. I heard just before I entered your group. That Tamil incomplete WhatsApp group, I am told it does it. All the children are in a group. Whatever incomplete work they do, they did photograph in the WhatsApp, send it around, the other person completes it, sends it around, other person completes it. This came from one of your faculty. This is not my invention. The credit goes to her, and she's sitting here. So there is this enormous change in the human brain. But still, what is challenging is brain continues to be social. It continues to be in prehistoric stage. It has still not grown up to the modern computer era. And I'm going to talk why about that. Yeah? As you see the slide in front of you, I'm only not going to get into deeper of the brain science. I'm going to keep it to a very high overview. And I'm only going to talk about two important parts of brain which will be important from learning teaching perspective, and mention about the third one and not get into the detail of that. What you see in front of you is the prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex sits right in front of your forehead. That's the prefrontal cortex. Now school teachers are hired for prefrontal cortex. Oh, yeah, it is. Organization hire employee for prefrontal cortex. You as teachers and faculties are developing prefrontal cortex. Parents get stressed out if the prefrontal cortex is not developed. But developing a prefrontal cortex, the difficulties with that I'm going to talk about, because it is the prefrontal cortex that makes us think. It is the prefrontal cortex that differentiates us from monkey. Otherwise, there is no very, very small difference. We tell, no, monkey, don't shout in the class or in the home, whatever you are saying. We are closer to that. We all know that. And it is still in evolving stage. Prefrontal cortex is the latest of the brain part to evolve. It's evolving and it is continuing to evolve. Unlike other parts of the brain, which are very evolutionary old, prefrontal cortex is not. Prefrontal cortex is very important for us to be functional, but the size of the prefrontal cortex compared to the brain is relatively small. Required for rational processing. And if you see rational processing, what do you see in that particular line which is slightly different from other lines in my slide? The processing is half yellow and half white. Why do you think I put it like that? Evolving and lunchtime is coming, right? So you are going to stop processing information. As you start listening to me initially, lot of processing happens. As you listen more and more, the processing slowly starts waning away. So that's why I put it in different color. And the most important thing, and I think this is one thing if you take away with you, I'll be more than happy. Prefrontal cortex matures, and I've circled matures, and I'll tell you why I have circled matures. Only between the age of 18 and 21. We nag our children at 4, what do you want to become? We nag our children, what is your life, career, aspiration? Believe me, they cannot tell you. Because it is a function of the prefrontal cortex to plan, organize, and introspect, think, execute, and tell you what it has to do. And if it is not developed, beating them, kicking them, putting them wherever you want to put them, make them kneel down, doesn't help. And I've circled matured there for you to understand it does not mean it doesn't exist. It exists. If it doesn't exist, then we are no different from animal. It exists, but the maturity of it develops only at the age of 18 to 21. But the good news is you as faculties, with your teaching, with your learning, with your ability to make them get insights, you can broaden the prefrontal cortex. They have done a lot of work in prefrontal cortex, right? They have taken all the great meditators working with Dalai Lama. They have put them in the scanner, fMRI scanner, and they have actually taken the scan of the brain. The one who have meditated more have a much stronger prefrontal cortex than the who does not have, right? So your job is to grow prefrontal cortex, not teaching or learning. That's the way you do it. The way to do developing prefrontal cortex is meditation. And I am sure some of you are meditating here, and it is also very difficult to keep quiet for 5 minutes. Forget, 2 minutes. Forget, today it's 1 minute, you can't keep quiet. Either you have to take your mobile phone and then shoot away a few mails, or keep looking at the mobile phone where there's no message. Even if there's no message, we have to look at the mobile phone, right? Because the brain is social. And when we are working with the prefrontal cortex, we have to work and understand we are working with certain limitations. Madam, can I expect you to move that? Yep. It is used for understanding. So, first day in the class, first session in the morning, they are very, very good in understanding. And for your first PT period, if the first period is a play period or a PT period, it is, then the prefrontal cortex is the highest, because novelty, happiness, excitement. But if the first period is a subject which I don't like, and I didn't like any subject in my life, every subject exhausts prefrontal cortex. That is understanding. Then the children decides. That is when the tummy pain comes. That is when the washroom is most important for them. That is when they suddenly become thirsty, right? And that is when they suddenly think the neighboring student is having some difficulty. So they are trying to understand, decide what can they do to inhibit the class, the last function. And then you are asking them, children, Last class, do you remember? They remember only the television serial. What do they remember from the last class? So they try to recall. Then you are also asking them to memorize. Two things. These are important. Don't underestimate the importance of this. I was just talking to the principal. She was talking about how important memorizing is. Very important. Because remember, it develops the prefrontal cortex. You are able to remember. But the difficulty is, at what frequency should I ask them to do it? Is there a possibility I can make it a fun, but not remove it? You can't do that. If I don't remember what I studied in neuroscience, I'll be a joker in front of you standing here and talking about prefrontal cortex. So you need to be able to recall, you need to be able to memorize, you need to be able to analyze it, you also need to know to inhibit it. Inhibition is an important function of the prefrontal cortex. There is a part in the brain called dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, which is a brain braking system. That's why we are social. We know what to do in a forum like this, what I should dress, how I should behave with people. And if I am going to do something that is inappropriate, it signals immediately, stop it, it's inappropriate to do in a forum where there are ladies or in a forum which I don't know. So the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex brings the inhibition, and children have less prefrontal cortex. Therefore, for them to inhibit something is difficult. That's why when they get very, very tough about wanting something, and you reason it out to them that why is it that they cannot have it. They cannot reason out because they cannot inhibit the gratification. They have to want it now. They can't think, they can't decide. They will find it extremely difficult. These five function together is key in your teaching and learning, and that is the five function that helps in problem solving, communication, dealing with others' tasks, and working with others. And today I think world has moved. You don't need to remember data anymore. You need to teach them more concepts, why rather than what. And now it is easy to say teach them why rather than what. But from a prefrontal cortex perspective, the moment you ask three whys, the energy is drained down. Because being a newly developed part, and every time it looks for novelty, everything that comes is new to me, this whole place is new to me, there is certain amount of thinking that goes in my mind which needs tremendous amount of oxygen and glucose for me to be functional. So children can drink coffee, they can eat chocolates, they can keep themselves happy by getting that, but you also know the consequence of eating too much. Therefore, is that a solution? Not at all. Am I recommending that? No way. But is that a lack of glucose and oxygen? Yes, yes, yes. The more it lacks, the more the prefrontal cortex becomes defunctional. Let's talk more about that. I want you to watch carefully this 3x3 quadrant, the same child's facial expression, because I'm going to talk about inhibiting here. This is again an experiment. This is not something that we are talking about in the air, not a slide I picked from Google. Yes, of course, I should probably put source Google. But just what they did is, they did the marshmallow experiment with children. What they did is they kept one marshmallow in front of the kid and said, don't eat it. Don't touch it. You are not allowed to do anything. But if you can withstand for 5 minutes, then you will get 2 marshmallows. Children have a difficult time. You can see the face, turning away, putting his hands on the head. Last one, looking at it closely, screaming, shouting, crying, smelling the marshmallow, but I can't eat. Right? Because inhibiting is difficult. But what they found is, it was a longitudinal research, that children who could delay gratification in the marshmallow experiment did much more better than children who could not delay gratification. Right? So, teach them the art of trying to stop doing something. Is it important? Absolutely. How do I do it? I will talk about it. Yes, madam. If you could give her the... Thank you, I can have a water now.
Pleasure. Sir, you said they were
It's
good
not my
at-
picture.
I know that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said they are good at, they become good at. What are they becoming good at? Cognitive skills?
I am going to talk about it. I assured you before your lunchtime, I will give you practical, tested, researched model that you can use at. And you are right, cognitive skill, because this is for thinking. Yeah? Great. And also, madam, inhibiting emotions. I am going to talk in the next few slides. Inhibition is a function of the prefrontal cortex, right? So if I have to inhibit, yeah,
Sorry to say this, but there was a small spelling error in the previous.
there will be, because I am not a good student.
So I just need to correct
No,
it.
no, no, absolutely, I understand.
Inhibit it was.
Right,
It was
sure.
inhabit.
Yeah, thank you for that. Right. Thank you for saying that. I'll correct that. Yeah. Yes, so inhibiting is a function of the prefrontal cortex. It does inhibit the emotions that come. In this slide, what you're seeing exactly is that the ability of the prefrontal cortex to inhibit is not matured. So it's difficult for them. Questions like that would be extremely helpful. Spelling errors for next students would be useful as well. So when you teach and when you learn, and as you're sitting there listening to all the good lectures from morning, your prefrontal